Welcome to Impact Marriage with Nick and Lesley Edwards. We're so glad that you've chosen to join us this week. Each week, we work to be able to impact your marriage by bringing you the hard truths, to talk about the hard things in order that you can be better, because we believe better is always better.
Yeah, I love that tagline, and it was always interesting. It's been graduation weekend here in Forney, and so we've gone to several parties. That's always, we go to a party, oh, how many of these have y'all gone to?
It's a little exhausting.
It is exhausting.
But it's also fun.
It's always so fun to me, and I always say, when I was an assistant principal, I got to call names at graduation. Absolutely one of my favorite jobs that I ever had. It was such a neat experience, like being able to call that kid's name when they walked across the stage, because for so many of those kids, it was like their greatest accomplishment.
Absolutely.
That they had done in their 18 years, and something that they had worked hard for and that they were proud of, and their family was proud of them. So I love going to all the graduation parties and seeing it, and just knowing that these seniors that just graduated have their whole future ahead of them. And same thing, college graduates. We're at the age where a lot of our friends have kids that are graduating. Their kids are graduating from college, and just, you have your whole life ahead of you. And it's just such a fun moment for them. It's scary.
It's a scary moment. It's a new uncharted waters for them.
Yeah.
And being able to go and do something new and exciting. Hopefully it's exciting for them. And just knowing that you are at this crossroads of your life, that you really get to build your future.
Yeah. So super fun. I love doing that. Like I said, just graduation just makes you think. It doesn't matter whether you're 18, whether you're 45, whether you're 65, like, still chase after, keep going, keep growing, keep being better.
It makes me think, in 2005, Texas won the national championship with Vince Young and that whole team. And one of the things I heard Mac Brown say after that, he told his team, do not allow this to be the greatest accomplishment of your life.
Wow.
That you are on this high, that you just won the national championship. Vince Young has this heroic moment, maybe the greatest college football game ever.
Yeah.
And he tells them, do not let this be the greatest moment of your life. So it may be the greatest moment of your life so far.
Yeah.
But for whether it's graduation or your next step or you're starting your marriage, don't allow this one day to be the greatest moment. Continue to seek after better.
Yeah. That's really good, which is kind of what makes me think of our tagline, better's always better.
Yeah, absolutely.
For the graduates, whatever you're doing, do better, do your next thing, keep going, keep pushing.
Absolutely.
So it's cool. It's just one of my favorite things. I have a Facebook memory that pops up every year where I took a picture one time behind the podium, and I'm sure it'll come up in the next few days. And I love sharing it because it's just all of the name cards that I just was throwing under the podium. I mean, there were like 500 graduates. And so I would call all their names, but just being able to look them in their eye when they walk the stage, it was just such a cool memory. One of the things that I loved.
One of the things that's important is finding ways to invest in people, investing in the next generation, that it can't just be about you and your marriage. It can't just be about you and your kids. But as believers, we are to impact the body of Christ and to impact that next generation. And how are you equipping them? Not just maybe you're helping in kids ministry or in youth ministry. Maybe you're working in a college ministry and investing. Maybe you're working with young married couples. I mean, remember our very first class that we ever taught, we had just got married and we were teaching all these young marrieds, and just that we had people that were investing in us in order for us to invest in others.
Yeah, that's very cool. So, yeah, it's really good.
Just good memories there.
It is good memories. And then it's just contrasting kind of, we went with some couples this week to go eat, and just, you're in a different life stage, but you still have people that are pushing you. I love what you posted about that. Like people that want our best, that are pushing for our best, that are helping us get there. We talked about the friends that we have in our life as we kind of went through some rough patches these last few weeks. Like the friends that would say, no, get back in that fight. Keep going, keep pushing. We're here for you. We're praying for you. So it's so important to have those people in your life. Yeah,
we've talked about this in the past. And, a couple weeks ago, we had just a rough 10 days, and just as a rough period, and just stress and all the different things going on with life and marriage and finances and everything going on in the world. And I reached out to some friends after everything was better.
Yeah.
And one of my friends said, what the heck? What the heck's your problem? And he wasn't asking me, like, why did I do wrong in this? He was saying, in the middle of your problem and in the middle of your struggle, why did you not reach out to me then? Why did you wait until after the problem was resolved to reach out? And it was a very humbling moment. And he was completely right. I apologized to him. That's what he was there for in my life. And that's where I've been there for in his life. And just knowing that he's a guy I can call at 2:00 in the morning. He's going to answer and say, "What do you need?"
He's done that for us.
Yeah, literally.
Times, yeah.
And so he called me out on that.
It's good.
And we need people who will call us out and say, "Hey, you don't call me after the problem. You call me in the middle of the problem so I can pray for you. I can fight for you. I can correct you." He was not giving me any grace. He was giving me love.
Just love, absolutely.
But he was saying, "You don't have the right to act that way. You're supposed to be the spiritual leader of your home," and just called me out on some things. And it was very good. We need people like that in our life.
That's awesome. Yeah. So important.
So, we've talked about stress and the highs and the lows of marriage and kids and ministry and everything that goes along with those things. And, we've been in those different seasons and thinking about when we were young in those young married classes, being in college ministry and leading college ministry, to having dinner with some other pastors the other night and their wives, and just realizing that everyone is on a different pace in their spiritual journey.
Yeah.
We're all in different paces in our academics, that girls mature faster than guys do at a young age. And so they're ahead, and you have guys that hit puberty and they grow a lot faster than other kids that age. And they even thinking back at, I'm probably can lift more weights than you can today.
I would believe
not
that.
much, but a little bit. There was a time that I wasn't in very good shape, and you were running 5Ks, and you were out running all the time, and you could have outran me for days, right? And so we all go through these different seasons that we outpace each other, but that's also true spiritually.
Yeah, it's very true. And I think it's harder. I think you take it for granted that you're on different, like you understand that you can be on different paces. We talked about like getting your master's, getting your doctorate, like going to school, doing different things. But I think couples take it for granted. And I think there's this assumption that, we're supposed to be in the same place spiritually all the time. And then when it's not, it kind of creates this conflict. And I think a lot of times couples don't know what to do with it, or it prevents one spouse from wanting to run further and faster because, I don't want to leave my spouse behind, or the spouse that's behind is like, "Oh, you're just better than me." And, it can create this conflict if you don't address it or don't think through it or think how to do it. So I think it's important for us to kind of talk through when you're on different. We know we've had different times in our 23 years of marriage where we have been on different paces and different, areas spiritually.
So this is our topic for today. How do you support your spouse? What do you do? What do you not do when you're at different places spiritually? And this can come from a lot of different things.
Absolutely.
It can come from your background.
Yeah.
It can come from, one was raised in a Christian home, one was not. One became a believer at 8 years old. One became a believer at 28 years old. There can be a lot of different things that contribute to this, but we all are commanded to learn, grow, and to become more like Christ in all that we do. That the chief end of man is to glorify God, and the way we glorify God is to know God more.
Yeah.
And so when we're on different paces and we're at different places spiritually, how do we grow together and not allow that to be a problem in our marriage?
Yeah.
So talk to us a little bit about it. Tell us, what are some of the things that we have to avoid during those times?
Well, first I want to start, let's kind of talk about just some different areas that have happened in our life. And I know we've talked a little bit about them, but there was a time when you were kind of between positions. You had stepped out of being a pastor and thought that we were going to go into a different pastor role, and that didn't happen. And so just some different career paths that you took during that time. And there was a big bitterness.
It was
Is
bitter,
that a fair
ugly.
word to say?
It was deep, dark seasons of depression that, God, I had trusted you. I took this step of faith. I believed you. And then just feeling like, God, you've sold me out.
Yeah.
And God had abandoned me. He hadn't. He had bigger plans. But in that moment, it was kind of that dark night of the soul.
Yeah, absolutely. And just, I remember being in church at different times in that. And just, you would get so frustrated with me when I would say, we got to have faith in this. It's going to be good. We're going to get through this. God's going to provide. God's going to, and just, you just weren't there spiritually. And so we had that. And then there's the opportunity where you've kind of have a weekly group that you just dig in deep and you guys grow together and go together. And I remember just being like, man, I don't have that, and just realizing I'm not where you are spiritually because I'm not spending the amount of time digging in and studying, that you were always a pastor. And so by nature, you're supposed to, study the word more and do that. But I think even in terms of like our level of faith, not just what you're learning and growing spiritually, but just where you are in your faith journey. There's been times that when it was deep and dark and we were going through some really big things, I was like, well, I don't, know about this. This isn't where I want to put my faith. And you're like, nope, this is what we're going to do. And it really just takes me back to that cord of 3 strands that is talked about so often.
Yeah, Ecclesiastes.
Yeah. When you do a wedding ceremony, and that really is for those times, is that there are times that you are stronger, that I'm stronger, but it's together that we're doing this, that it's not going to be pulled apart. I watched a physics deal where, what you don't know about physics, if you just put 2 books, you can pull them apart, right? But if you layer
the books,
if you take 2 books and you layer the pages on top of each other, you cannot pull them apart. Like, it is physically impossible. It doesn't matter how strong you are, just when you overlap like that. And so to me, that's just such an important deal of that though we may not be, even if it was a bigger book and a smaller book, they don't have to be the same size book. It's impossible to pull them apart if there's enough connections in that. So I think one of the things, let's just jump into what you really should avoid, right?
Yeah, okay.
So I think some of the things that are hardest to do is you can't get prideful. Now that you are studying and you have all this time that you're in the Word and you're doing this, and I think sometimes it happens for husbands and wives, is that wives are traditionally the ones getting the kids together. They've got all those things, and there isn't that time in the morning that they can just sit and read and do. And I know we talked about this. I was like, you have your guys that you go and do with, but that's not a pride thing. It can't come across as a pride, like I'm better than you because I'm studying more, or I'm better than you because I'm further in my faith. That wasn't the case when you were struggling and in your, depth of depression.
I felt that way.
So that
but it wasn't what you were doing. It was you trying to hold up this level of faith when I was drowning.
Yeah. So that's funny that you say that, because the first part is you can't be prideful if you're the one that is growing more, or you're in a different, higher is not the right word I want to use, but
just further along in the growth process.
Yes. Or just stronger in that. But I think it's the same part for the one that's not, is you can't get resentful of that. Like, I really battled, just being totally honest. And I remember telling you this, we were counseling with a couple, and this was somebody that was in your group with you. And I was like, it's my favorite thing when you come home and you share what you're learning in that, because I don't have that time that I can commit to it, because I'm getting kids ready. I'm taking kids to school, and I love that you have that time. I want that time for you, but I had to really balance myself that I didn't become bitter or resentful, that you're growing, and also withdraw. I think for the person that's
good.
Is lesser, I think there's a tendency to fear that, that I have a fear that you're leaving me behind, that you're not going to, there's no other way to say it. You're not going to want me because I'm further behind than you. You're way up here and I'm just down here. And I think it's that fear. And so you just withdraw.
Good. No, I think there's a lot of fear in that. And the fear always comes from a lie.
100%.
And it's a spiritual attack. And that spiritual attack says, well, y'all aren't the same anymore, right?
Yeah.
And you're not united. And instead of going, no, you're a cord of 3 strands, that we are connected through Christ, and Christ is holding our marriage together. We're not building our own thing. He's building this. And whoever is the person who's stronger in that moment in their faith has the opportunity to pull the other one forward and to encourage and to speak life and to speak hope and to say, hey, let's keep running this race.
Yeah. And I think you also have to avoid nagging. No one's ever going to be nagged into growing.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's how you prompt. It's how you.
Because you have to avoid pride, avoid resentment.
Yeah.
You have to avoid the nagging, and that can go both ways. That's
100%.
Typically, nagging is a woman type term that's used, but it's more than that. It's about, hey, why aren't you doing this?
Yeah, or you need to do this. You should. Why aren't you studying? Why aren't you reading? Why you need to be doing this? It's more commanding what they should be doing, and then just withdrawing. I think on the person that's not growing, their tendency is to withdraw or to say, "Oh, I'm just going to create more separation," which you can't do. So those are the kind of things I would say you really need to make sure that you're avoiding in those situations.
But I think you're never going to be exactly at the exact same point, ever. And it's understanding that because the two are one, we are united for each other's good or each other's bad. We either spiral up or we spiral down. And so for me, just going through those dark seasons of doubting God, God, are you even real? Do you even care? And you sustaining our faith through that time as a family to where I am now. And now what I love is being when I get out of the shower in the morning and you're laying in bed reading. Yeah. And that's just so encouraging. I know that that's something you've gone through highs and lows. You've journaled for a long time, then got out of the habit, and just like everybody does. Yep. And just to see your discipline and commitment to those things is very encouraging.
Yeah. So it's just different areas. And I think some of that is because of how great you were when I wasn't growing and pushing like I needed to be. I know because this is one of the things that you should be doing for your spouse is, you're going to avoid these things, but you got to pray for your spouse and you got to pray with your spouse. I know that you spent many, many years, months praying, hey, I want Lesley to dig back in. I want her to get back in the Word, and praying with God for that and just kind of waiting. All right, God, I'm praying for this. I'm just going to wait.
And it's the same thing we pray for our kids, right?
Yeah.
When they're wondering, we don't stop praying. We don't stop giving grace and love and mercy. Yeah. We don't stop showing the love of Christ just because our kids are struggling or our spouse is struggling.
100%.
That's actually the time that our faith should be revealed.
Yeah. It's just, you got to show the love and patience with them. You're praying for them. You show that love and patience. But I think it's also one of the greatest things to me, and one of the things that I think helped kind of spur me on in that is to get back to that, is you would share what you were learning. And I loved that. Like, it was so good. You would come on and be like, hey, this is what we're talking about, or we're going through this book of the Bible, or we're doing this. Like, sharing what you're learning with your spouse, because you'll come out of, after you're getting ready and I'll still be reading and you're like, hey, what are you reading? What are you learning? And I'm like, oh, I'm learning this. And like, oh yeah, I remember when I learned that. And you just get to have that connection through what you're talking about when you're growing. And so, but it was a waiting game, to be able to do that. Same way when you were struggling and I would just pray, okay, God, this can't be, how it's going to be forever, and just waiting in that. But just through love and patience, because I wasn't trying to nag. You never tried to nag me into reading or to getting back into it. You prayed for it. You shared.
I think part of the problem is we always make excuses for why we can't spend time with God. Whether it's the kids, I'm tired, I'm working the night shift, I'm working overtime, I am coaching Little League, I'm doing all these things. And it's as if we try to find the excuse not to do the thing that matters most.
100%.
We talk about this. I talk about this in business coaching. We've talked about this for your business and my business. And what we do is that companies don't always measure what matters. They create this standard, whether it's the STAR test or whatever it is for school or for whatever job that's out there. Yeah. They create this standard of things that don't matter. And so we create these barriers in our life to keep us from the thing that matters most.
Yeah. It's very easy to do.
And there's nothing that's going to give you the joy, the fulfillment, the hope, the faith more than spending time with God.
Yeah.
And God wants us to know Him.
Yeah.
He doesn't want to just know about me. Yeah. Don't just come worship me 1 hour a week. I want to commune with you. I want to sit and I want to show you things and reveal things to you. And I want to show you who I am. And our relationship with God is so much like our relationship with our spouse that when you spend time together, you know each other and you know the deep things. We love it when we're with other people and we both start to say the same thing at the same time.
Yes.
It should be that way with our walk with God. Yeah. That we go, oh, I know what the Word of God says. I know what God has to say about this issue. I've spent time with Him.
Yeah. So that's very good. That's a good point to relate it to.
That same friend that called me out, he was telling me a story that he was he was at this event and this guy comes up to him in this event and says, hey, so-and-so told me about you and said, you talked to God like y'all had coffee this morning. Huh. And he goes, well, we did. And just that's how the intimacy that we should have with God. It's like I spend time with God every morning. It's like we're sitting having coffee together, and I share my heart, and He goes, "Let me teach you about myself."
This is what, and
absolutely. That's the kind of intimate relationship that we should have with God.
Yeah, that's really cool. That's a good way to look at it. And I think you digging after that, and I think this goes on to kind of, it's your love and patience, and it's how you're going to see. I talked about it a few weeks ago when we kind of talked about the biblical rules, 1 Peter 3, where it talks about what if you have an unbelieving spouse? Because we've talked about you both are kind of grow at different levels, but what if you're married to an unbeliever? What if the difference between you is huge or vast or seems way bigger? I love the 1 Peter 3 because I think it's been in the same deals when I look at times even when we've been apart. So whether you're a little apart or whether you're far apart or whatever it is, it's they will love and see what your deeds are. Like it's not your words that are going to make them believe. Yeah. They're going to look at you and be like, I love what having hunger for God looks like in you and how you respond. And I see these fruits of the Spirit lived out to you. You are more patient. You are more kind. You are more loving because you are sitting in the glory of God and in the Word of God all the time. And I want that. I want that. I'm missing that. I can tell in my spirit that I'm missing that. And it's the same way, regardless of where you are in this, is if you are living in such a way, do you, by your actions, tell your spouse you should want to be closer to God? Not by your words, not telling them you should read, you should be closer to God, you should go to church with me, you should, but are you inviting them into, by your actions, by your words, by who you are? You know, we had that opportunity with our daughter to say, I want to take my family to church like you did. It was so important to us. I saw it lived out in you guys. It wasn't just something that you said, it was what you lived out, that it's made an impression on her. It's the same way when you have a spouse, when you're on different levels, is just live it out, continue to grow, continue to seek after the things of God. And it's going to it's the salt of the earth verse that we kind of talked about, that it makes people hungry when they see that in you.
So I want to give one more word of caution on this. Okay. There's this, maybe where this root of bitterness, and we've talked about that before, and you've mentioned it earlier, there's just resentment that can just slowly creep in. Yeah. And here's how, you may have sat in church Sunday and your spouse was worshiping. You saw them worshiping, you saw them singing, you saw them trying to pray, you saw them making notes in their Bible, and you also know this week sucked. Yeah. And it's very tempting to go, what a freaking hypocrite. Don't come in here and play church. And here's what I would tell you, that they may have been struggling, but they were also trying to pursue the things of God.
It's when you need to be there the most.
It's not that they had it figured out, but they're trying. And so give grace when the other person is trying. And if you don't like that they're trying, you need to check your spirit.
It's very true.
There's something going on within you, and there's an attack on you if you are upset that your spouse is worshiping.
Yeah. And how God is revealing himself to your spouse is going to look different.
Absolutely.
You know, in different times of it. And that's such a good word, is that, are you encouraging your spouse to keep growing in their growing? Or are you encouraging them, oh, you're just faking it. You know, we had a bad week and now you're going to, that's such a good word to just think about. Am I encouraging you by my actions and words to keep growing, to keep, you know, I try, if all you're telling me this and you'll send me a blurb in the morning, oh, this is really cool. Remind me, I got to tell you, I want to show you these connections to things. And even though I don't totally grasp all of them because it's really deep and it's really good, but that's where you are.
But you're also encouraging me to keep digging.
100%. I always try to encourage you, hey, I really love this in you. And same thing when you come out, you know, and hey, what are you reading? And I'm not spending hours and hours, you know, studying it, and I want to get there and want to keep growing in it, but it's just a encouraging word. Hey, I love that you're reading this. I love coming out and seeing that you're reading what you're, you know, what the Bible is and what you're going through. And so,
you know, I think so often we feel like the gap, our spiritual gap, is too big for us to overcome.
That's how Satan wants it to feel.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, but you wouldn't think that it was true if you were trying to, I mean, you know, there's all these apps, Couch to 5K in 90 days.
That's what I did.
Yeah. And so it is couch to 5K in spiritually because you invest in it.
Yeah.
And if you are more committed to investing in the gym, and you're more committed to making sure that you watch your right show every night, and you're more committed to making sure the kids are at all the different events, but you're not committed to what God's trying to do in you.
Yeah.
I just want to encourage you. Don't give up. Just seek the greater thing, that God has something better for you. And Satan wants to distract you and keep you from what God has that's best. He wants to keep you from the things that God says, I want to bless you and do great things in your life and your marriage. And Satan says, hey, let me keep you distracted.
Yeah. Which goes back to really a great way to end this. The verse is Galatians 6:9.
Yeah.
That was so powerful to me when I was in college. And just, you want to read it? You got it?
Yeah. It's so it starts off in verse 8. It says, for the one who sows to his own flesh will from his own flesh reap corruption, but the one who sows to the Spirit will again reap from the Spirit eternal life. And let us not grow weary in doing good, for in due season we will reap if we do not give up.
Yeah.
You have to choose, am I going to sow to the Spirit, or am I sow to the flesh? Am I going to sow into the things of God, or am I going to sow into bitterness and contempt and anger and all the other things of the world? What are you going to sow to? And then don't grow weary in doing good.
Yeah.
It's so easy to grow weary in doing good. I'm trying to do this. I'm trying to do that. Don't get too tired. Keep going. Keep going in the fight. Keep fighting for your marriage. Keep fighting for your spiritual journey. Keep fighting spiritually for your kids.
Yep.
Do not give up and do not quit.
Yeah. Because better is always better.
Better is always better. Hey, stay in the fight. Continue to grow spiritually. Continue to invest in your marriage. Pray together. That's your challenge this week.
Yeah.
Not over a meal, but just one time. Husbands, say, hey, can we just pray? It's going to feel weird if you've never done it. It's going to feel awkward. It's going to feel awkward, and it's going to feel weird because Satan does not want that intimacy in your marriage. You begin praying together. You begin serving together. You begin talking about your finances and how you give together and how you want to do the things of God. And I promise you, God will show up.
Yeah.
God will show you what he will do.
100%.
And it's not going to look exactly like you think, but he will show his goodness and mercy and faithfulness to you.
Absolutely. Thank you guys for joining us. Look forward to visiting with you next week.
All right. Have a great week.